I've wanted a 13-inch snare for a while, and I also needed a new project. And as fate would have it, an Orange County X Series, or is it Series X? Well, this snare came across Facebook Marketplace at $50, and I just couldn't say no. Even just from the pictures on the listing, I could tell this drum had been ridden hard and put away wet. What does that mean exactly? It means that I had my work cut out for me if I want this snare to ever make music again. We'll get into some of the obvious parts in a moment, but I gave this drum a good inspection on what it still can do. The throw-off is perfectly fine, so that's helpful. The bottom seems great. Well, aside from that dumb batter head someone decided was a good idea to fit on the snare side. Tension rods that were there had some nylon washers on them that were a little difficult to remove, but no biggie. No reason not to continue the disassembly, which went on without any major surprises, apart from the epoxy elephant in the room. These snare wires were just a little twisted, and I hope they could still be used, and you'll see later that they turned out just fine. Die-cast hoops came on this drum, and with the batter side hoop missing, I knew that was going to be one of the more expensive purchases. This bearing edge has seen better days, and I believe this is a 9-ply all-maple shell that is about 3/8 of an inch thick. This surprises me because drums around this time generally were a maple basswood mix, and manufacturers could pump them out at the intermediate level with less production cost due to basswood being much cheaper. This isn't premium maple though. A quick peek at the mounting screws and what we're dealing with here. Basically a war crime. It looks like someone cranked up the batter head on this thing so much that it actually damaged all of the top lugs and mounting posts enough where they used industrial epoxy to, and I'm using very heavy quotation marks here, fix the lugs back onto the shell. I had to use a damn crowbar to pry off 2 of the lugs. A crowbar! This isn't some kind of Pearl Masterworks or Black Beauty or anything. But it's still a great drum that Orange County made around 2010 or so, and it certainly didn't deserve this abuse. Thought to myself at this point, what in the world I'm going to do to remove this epoxy without damaging the drum further? I'll extrapolate on that a bit more in a moment, but wanted to make a quick note that all of the hardware has gaskets, which is awesome. Also, the throw-off mechanism quickly became one of my favorite gadgets to fiddle with. OCDP really did a great job with this. It feels butter smooth. And it also came with some gaskets. Pleasantly, the badge had tiny screws for mounting it to the shell. This is great that it's not just a sticker because I really wanted to preserve this badge. There was some old adhesive behind it that I later had to remove with some acetone. Had an extra air vent grommet from a previous build, but the hole in the shell was too small, so I made the decision to enlarge this air vent to make a new grommet fit and ditch the old crappy one. I didn't get footage of the drilling, but imagine a drill going into a drum. Hope that helps paint a good picture for you. Nobody expects Joe Satriani. This is his Additional Creations promo from 2000, with Turkey Man on it. Joe is gonna protect our drum badge here. Everyone thank Satch in the comments. And next up is ordering parts. The next few minutes, I'll go over what I selected from Drum Factory Direct, an absolute treasure of a company when it comes to building or rebuilding drums. Just about every kind of part imaginable. In this case, I'm deciding on the lugs to replace the ones someone had destroyed. I like the idea of using tube lugs, but Jesus naked rollerblading Christ, they're almost $9 each! Well, I figured I only needed 4, more on that later, and they're never going to quite match, so why not try and match color but take some creative liberty with the shape. These spiky tube lugs look to still be in stock, and I figured, hey, let's give this drum some punky attitude. I chose the right mounting screws for the shell thickness and wanted to see if I could get 16 to replace all of the lugs, and yeah, there's no way I'm spending $150 on those. It's just not happening. Okay, well, how about 2. I mean, yeah, but that'd just be awkward. Well, I decided to put them in the cart for now and focus on other items. I figured that the lug situation might be best sorted out after I see what I'm willing to spend on other things, like tension rods and washers and stuff. So, $12 for the tension rods in black nickel, and then $100 for the damn batter side die-cast hoop. I looked around to see if there was anything cheaper here, and I decided that I'm gonna get what I pay for, and I know these die-cast hoops are great quality. Weird streak of bad luck in finding snare side heads from both Evans and Remo in 13 inches. They just all happen to be sold out. Evans 300s, Remo Clear Ambassadors, even the DFD cheapo ones weren't available as 13-inch. The only ones they did happen to have in stock were the Remo Hazy Ambassadors, which as far as I know are exactly like the Clear Ambassadors, so into the cart it goes. It was at this point I saw in the Spiky Lugs description in my cart there were no gaskets, something I definitely wanted. So I went back and chose to have them included. Also decided to increase the quantity to 8 so I could have all of the top lugs be spiky. But apparently with the gaskets, there was only a quantity of 4 available. Yet another curveball. Okay, I guess I'll do 4 and maybe choose something else in black nickel later. Oh, and of course the best snare head goes in too. Already $200 invested. So the only real option to deal with the epoxy situation was a brute force attack using some power tools and hand sanding. The finish on the drum was already toast, which was okay by me, as red glitter sparkle is one of my least favorite finishes on drums. With a small rotary tool, mask, goggles, and a steady hand, I could be relatively gentle in removing the bulk of the solid stuff. Had to be careful to just go a little bit at a time so I don't gouge the drum with the little sanding bit. Certainly wanted to avoid having to fill in a mistake of my own. The idea is to undo someone else's stupidity, not cause more damage. Just a back and forth with the rotary and hand sanding with 120 grit. The idea here is to get the outside to be smooth for some automotive wrap later. So it's 100% about texture and 0% about looks at this stage. I put effort into rebuilding and refurbishing drums because it gives me a deeper appreciation for my instrument. Really committing effort into a drum that's been all but destroyed, on the brink of a landfill, and elevated to being an instrument that is just as good as, if not better than, when it was brand new. And the effort required varies greatly. This drum is certainly closer to an extreme situation, where just a good cleaning and some new heads weren't gonna get it back into working order here. I have yet to even turn around and sell any of the drums that I've refurbished. For one, nobody's gonna buy this snare once it's done for the amount of money I've put into it. I think this drum sold for like $150 brand new in 2010 or something. I've already spent $50 on the drum, $250 in parts. I ordered the remaining lugs, you'll see them in a bit, and $25 on the wrap. That's $325. There's no way I'll make a profit. At the end here, I wanted to resurface the bearing edge as best as I could, so I went as evenly and as thoroughly as possible with some 400 grit. Bearing edges are just really tough to get right, so I really wanted to take my time with this. And that's it for the hard parts, so let's go back inside and wrap this thing. Orange County snare? Well, how about orange wrap? Get it? Orange County? Orange? Anyway, this wrap is from Vivid, with 3 V's. It was relatively inexpensive, found it on Amazon, and it arrived the next day. This is the 3rd time I've used a vinyl wrap, 2nd time from this manufacturer, so I kinda knew what to expect here. The key is to take your time and be as thorough as you can. Absolutely do not try to rush this. There will be imperfections and air bubbles, something that I'm still getting better at mitigating. But as with every delicate operation, more experience will eventually lead to better technique and better results. I believe I took a little over a half hour for just this drum. Some people claim to be able to do it in like 10 minutes or less. Your results may vary, especially depending on the wrap. On another project, I used some thicker contact vinyl that was a bit more forgiving, and it turned out amazing. But that is a much, much bigger and way more expensive project that will have to wait for quite some time before you'll get to see it. I used an X-Acto knife here to trim the excess off, then near each edge I eyeballed being about a 1/4 inch or about 6 millimeters away from the bearing edge. This is because I don't want the wrap to affect the fit of the head's collar when it goes on the drum. This doesn't have to be laser perfect or anything, just keep a close eye on it as you cut through the wrap around the whole circumference of the drum. Really satisfying to peel off that edge part. I'm a big fan of edging. I believe this process is called weeding, so I'm weeding out all of the holes for the drum out of the wrap. This process took a long, long time. This is actually the first time I'm using a heat gun to help adhere the wrap to the shell. I just set it on low power and got the wrap warmed up to where I saw the air bubbles kind of start to change. As soon as I saw that happen, I smoothed them out. I didn't want the wrap to get too hot. You want it about as warm to the touch as your mug might be with a freshly poured coffee. The first bit of jewelry to be installed is the new grommet. Satch delivers unto us the badge. Thanks, Satch, in the comments. I lined up the tiny screws with the original screw holes, yeah, I could actually see them, and tightened the badge down. I'm already getting pretty excited at this point. But before the rest of the hardware goes on, we gotta clean it all up a bit. I simply put all the smaller pieces into a couple of sandwich bags with some warm, soapy water, and then tossed them around a few times to agitate the soap. This is just a quick way of cleaning it all up. That's really all these parts needed. The parts that were able to be reused on the drum were actually mostly clean already. Hell, I even went as far as cleaning the snare wire straps. I didn't really want to soak the entire throw off, so I hit it with a soapy toothbrush, and that did the job just fine. The hoop was quick and easy, and just a sponging and a rinse. My kitchen is pretty well ventilated with a low-hanging ceiling fan, which is a perfect spot for the parts to dry. I spaced them all out on a microfiber towel that I've dedicated to just being a parts drying towel. And after about a half hour, they were completely dry. I wanted to show how the top lugs looked here compared to the bottom lugs, which is what they should look like. You can see the mounting posts are bent and the top portion is just crunched. They'll never be the same no matter how much I fiddle with them using pliers, so into a scrap bag they go. The Drum Factory direct order came in, this one containing the hoops, heads, tension rods, and the spiky lugs. I love looking at the packing slip that DFD includes, which has a handwritten checklist of all the parts and special thank you note. It's attention to detail, the personal touch, and quality products that keep me coming back. The new die-cast hoop matches with the original one perfectly. Honestly, that was such a relief because I had more confidence that the rest of the black nickel hardware I ordered was also going to match, and I was right. I like to sort all of the pieces on the table. I believe this is called knolling, something I learned from Adam Savage's videos. Here are the spiky lugs, and they feel great. Solid, Beautifully made lugs, totally worth every penny. And they match very, very closely to the finish of the original lugs. And yes, the hole spacing is correct. Remo Ambassador snare side. Evans HD dry, best snare head ever. So much control of unwanted overtones without additional dampening.
Google, show me this guy's balls, please.
Balls, 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 balls.
Don't forget to pop a ball for yourself. That was a mistake. Nah, balls are best placed in the lugs. Not everyone believes in this trick, but it's a simple enough process, so why the hell not? Now the reassembly can begin. Lug by lug, screw by screw. I do everything by hand because I don't trust a power drill to not strip a screw or damage the drum by over-tightening. The throw-off and butt plate go back on too. After snugging up all the screws by hand, I go back over all of it with a screwdriver and get each screw about as tight as a firm handshake. The bottom of the snare looks great. Just giving it a good inspection after every step here. If I haven't mentioned it yet, or if it's not already apparent, this drum has 8 lugs per side. And I ordered 4 spiky lugs, since that is all DFD had. The other lugs are all ball-style tube lugs that should complement the top row, which we'll see in a moment. The layout of the top lugs are going to be alternating: spiky lug, ball lug, spiky lug, ball lug, etc. The snare side head and hooper are placed, of course after making sure the snare gates are aligned with the throw-off. It's a bit of a snug fit, but that can be the case with die-cast hoops. Some people think this chokes the drum. And yeah, it might, but I'd rather have a rigid hoop with a little choking to help focus the sound, personally. Little bit of tune bot, then the snare wires. I tried bending these back into shape, but they wound up being rather stubborn and I couldn't get them to lay flat. Since I didn't have any other 13-inch wires, I hoped they'd straighten out once they were under tension. And yeah, actually, they did straighten out enough. I might replace these with some Pure Sounds in the future. Maybe. Still waiting for the final 4 lugs to arrive, so I thought I'd get this drum as close as I could to a final assembly so I could get a good visual on it. Man, it looks so good already, and that final delivery can't come soon enough. Magically, a few days have passed in only a matter of seconds. The final lugs arrived, so after a long drive home from work, I quickly got to installing them. Nothing too fancy, but they're just what this drum needs. Lug by lug, I felt like this monster was finally coming to life right in front of me. In the days between, I just kept looking at this snare and thinking about the work I put into it. Where it was before and how far it's come. Never have I spent this much time or money on one drum before. And somehow it felt like every decision I made, no matter how bold or expensive, it turned into something I could certainly be proud of. Did some final touches here with the heat gun after tightening down the lugs to really get that wrap to adhere and remove as much bubbling as I could. The batter head went on a little snug, just like the snare side, but seated very nicely with a little coaxing. Some small tuning issues at first, probably because the bearing edge might not be absolutely flat, but in the end I got the head to do what I wanted. Could I have gone out and spent $300 or so on a brand new 13-inch snare that I didn't have to do any of this to? Of course, but then this drum would have likely never been rebuilt. I would have never had this journey. This was never about the money, but it was all about the investment. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw here, why not hit that subscribe button and leave a comment? I'm planning on doing many more restoration videos, drum covers, and other music-related content, and it would be great to have you along. Check out one of the other videos on screen now, and have a great rest of your day.